G'day everyone. I just had a fantastic conversation with Ben Ellingsen from Kingdom Financial about the options that are available right now for small business that are coming from the ATO and the federal government. If you are in small business and you have been affected by COVID-19, you must watch this video. There is just so much great information in it. Watch right to the end. Ben is an absolute fountain of fantastic information here. It was an absolute pleasure to talk to him. He's a really busy guy. So thanks, Ben, for taking the time to chat with us. Over to you, Ben. G'day, Ben.
G'day, mate. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to have a chat with the Chamber. We really, really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Always good to talk to you, mate.
Thank you. Thank you. This stuff's really, really complex, and I'm certainly glad that we've got you to chat to about it. Tell us a bit about yourself, your accounting and financial services. Tell us about the business and what's your background.
Yeah, so Kingdom Financial is what we trade now. We actually changed that back on 1 July of last year. Previously, we had two businesses. There was Ellingsen Partners as our accounting business and Advice Partners as our financial planning. And we decided to scrap those names and come under the one umbrella. And so Kingdom Financial was born from there. The accounting side, we've been going 10 years last month, actually. So we celebrated our 10-year anniversary last month. And the financial planning business we purchased from Simon and Joanne Thomas back in early 2017, and it's itself has been going for 20 plus years, that business. So, but we brought them together, and things are going really well.
Excellent. That's awesome to hear. 10 years is fantastic. I didn't realise that. Congratulations.
Yeah, it goes quick, doesn't it? What do they say? Time flies when you're having fun. So.
That's right. I had somebody say to me once that you're 20, you're 30, you're 40, you're 50, and it is kind of like that.
Yeah, absolutely. But you're only as old as you feel. That's what I say too.
Exactly. That's true. So we find ourselves in a pretty strange world. I'm calling it the new normal at the moment.
Yes.
There's a lot of pressure on local businesses. We're concentrating on local businesses, obviously. We're the Kippy Chamber. And we find that there's a wide range of the effect on business. So some are doing really well. Some have unfortunately had to close the doors already. And there's the others that maybe just keeping their head above water. The government has got a raft of different things that are available, or maybe potentially available is probably the better description. Both federal and the state governments. Federal's obviously the major the major part of it, and there is specifics in there that may look after local businesses more than others. What's your ear to the ground? What's the thing that people are asking about most?
Yeah, you're right. There's lots of and credit to the governments of all levels and political persuasions as well that have stepped up and said, you know what, we need to support our businesses, knowing that businesses, and in particular small businesses, that cliche, the engine room of any economy. So a few things from the state, but the primary I guess incentives that we're seeing interest from is from the federal government, and in particular there's the cash flow boost, and also this wonderful thing called the JobKeeper payment that you have to be living under a rock if you hadn't heard about.
That's true.
So they're the two primary ones, and that we're already seeing the benefit of. In fact, the cash flow boost, we're seeing clients get the benefit as early as late last week. So we know that cash flow boost is working and doing what is required. JobKeeper payment, those payments will obviously start to flow physically early next month, but for anybody who's eligible, there is a mountain of work that needs to be done before that. So, but they're the two, Brendan, that we're getting constant feedback and questions about. So
That makes sense. That's the ones I'm hearing most
Yeah.
about as well. And honestly, they'll be the ones that affect me directly as a small business owner as well.
Yeah.
So maybe we can kick off with JobKeeper and go into a bit of detail of let's go the hard one first. And I'll probably throw some silly questions at you.
Okay.
If I can understand it, maybe the people that are watching can understand it better.
Sure.
But yeah, let's kick off with JobKeeper. Tell us about it.
Well, JobKeeper has a lot of moving parts, and we're literally seeing things, in some cases, some of the practical stuff change from day to day. The two primary things that people need to be aware of is the eligibility of the business itself. And for business, that largely means that you've got to have a more than 30% reduction in your turnover for comparable periods. And the most common comparable period at the moment is the month of March, because the rules say it must be at least a period of 1 month at least. And then you've got to compare it with the same period of last year. So if we were to look at March turnover for 2020 and then compare that with March of 2019. But you're also allowed to throw into the mix some alternatives. So you're allowed to look at things like, well, I wonder what February, March looks like this year versus February, March last year, or January, February, March this year versus January, February, March last year. And so you've just got to really look at your numbers and first of all ascertain, are you eligible? One of the curveballs is this concept in the legislation of what they call alternative tests, because let's say you weren't around in March of last year. So how do you compare? And as recently as today, and it's something that I'm devoting time, literally hours every day to see what the latest information is. The tax office have promised soon, in inverted commas, literally that's what's on their website, the word soon, what those alternative tests will look like. So that, if you have, as I said, started a business in August of last year, how do you go about assessing whether or not you're eligible? So certainly not a black and white situation, Brendan, very, very grey from that point of view. So we're always constantly looking at what the tax office is bringing out to say how they're going to assess things or look at things.
I have heard them mention that they may allow a little flexibility in the assessment, but I guess in saying that, if you didn't have it black and white and you sort of trod into the grey area of I am eligible, would there be a chance that perhaps it might come back to bite you and you may
absolutely, yeah. And you're 100% right. The tax office are giving out the right soundings around being flexible. And don't forget, this is basically a self-assessment process. The tax office are going to assume that the information that you're providing, or the fact that you've concluded you're eligible, they're going to say, yes, Brendan, we accept that. Unless, of course, they look at things and go, hang on a sec, this looks way out of whack.
Yeah.
Then you can expect a bit of a please explain. But we know that within the legislation is the ability for the tax office to ask you to repay this JobKeeper payment if it turns out that somewhere down the track you're not in fact eligible. So it then leads you to the case of saying to clients, well, if you're in that sort of grey area, maybe you need to park those funds somewhere, almost treat it like a potential loan, in inverted commas, so that if in that unfortunate circumstance you are actually asked to pay it back, you can say, well, okay, yep, here it is. And so that's certainly, I think, best practice, that if you're in that very grey area, you wouldn't be going to spend that. Having said that, it sort of defeats the purpose of the system in the first place.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
But at the end of the day, when we're in business, we should be trying to de-risk our businesses as much as possible. That should be, we're so often as business owners, we're wearing different hats. But the primary hat is protecting our backside, because if we don't exist, then those other hats don't exist either. So that's sort of some of the things we're talking to clients about, Brendan.
Absolutely. And a bit of a curly question that may come up is, if you are a business and you assessed and you were eligible, can that business choose not to apply for JobKeeper, or are they obligated to apply?
No, awesome question, because we're seeing a lot of clients who are technically eligible. Okay, so they tick the box to say, yep, they are eligible. They also tick the box to say they have eligible employees. So they have some full-time, they have some part-time, or they have those long-term casuals. So they tick the boxes from a technical point of view. The real problem is they can't fund the payment of wages between when they physically pay their employees and then when they're reimbursed, because this is a reimbursement system. And I was talking to a client a few weeks ago, that classic case, tick the box, eligible, tick the box, eligible employees. If I remember correctly, say 10 to 15 employees. Wow. And she had calculated, let me just put that light back on. It's a centre light. She calculated that they would need on every month around $15,000 to cover. And we know that the way this system works is it's paid monthly in arrears. So you've got to pay the wages for the month, and then you put your hand out at the end of the month and you're paid within a period of time. So classic case of tick the boxes, eligible, but just practically couldn't do it. And so they had to make that really tough decision from the point of the survival of their business, the long-term survival of their business, to say to their employees, hey, listen, we can't get JobKeeper payment because we can't afford it. Okay. Now, I know the Prime Minister has come out and said, well, you know what, we've put some SME loan guarantees in place, and the banks, they really should be helping. And that's great in theory. I'll be really honest with you, I haven't heard that happen in practice, and so yeah, it is what it is. So absolutely, you can be eligible, Brendan, but have to put your hand up and say, no, I can't do it because I can't afford it.
Absolutely.
And again, as business owners, our first priority is to ourselves, to make sure that the business survives into the future. So
absolutely, if there's no business, there's no employees at all, or potentially any employees, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah.
So we go along, we've decided, and we've ticked all the boxes, we're eligible, we want to go ahead with JobKeeper. How do we then what's the next step from there? Do we assess our employees?
Yeah, that's the next step. So after you've assessed your own eligibility as a business, it's then to see what employees do we have that are in fact eligible, and not all of them will be eligible. There's age requirements. There's were they employed on the 1st of March? If you're a casual, there's a 12-month rule that they have to be a casual for at least 12 months, and they throw in this concept of systematic and regular as well, which is a great HR words for the HR lawyers. So it's possible that, again, you look at your employees and you go, well, that one is, but these two over here, they're not. So that's the next test, is once you've assessed your own eligibilities, to look at the eligibility of your employees. And then you need to actually get them to sign off on that. So there's actually some documentation they need to sign off. The reason for that is because an employee can only claim the JobKeeper payment once. So if they have multiple jobs, they can only claim it once, and they may not want to claim it through you. They may want to claim it through their other job. and so that would be one reason why an employee might decline to receive it from via your business.
Mm-hmm.
So there's another lot of admin that needs to go into it, and then that information needs to be provided to the tax office as well, so through the portal.
And the payment is $1,500 a fortnight. So what they're saying is, well, my interpretation of what they're saying is that if you've got an employee that is paid on a 12-month basis as a part-timer or a full-timer, if they earn less than $750 a week or $1,500 a fortnight, you've got to top them up.
Well, all of a sudden they get a pay increase, don't they, Brendan?
They do.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison. And to bring it to the extreme, we've seen a couple of circumstances where, let's say you're a Year 12 student, and let's say you're working in the local corner store, and you might work a few afternoons a week and maybe a Saturday or Sunday and what have you, and they're eligible. They've had a decrease of more than 30% in their turnover, so tick. And you've been there for more than 12 months and you're regular and systematic, so tick. And but you might only really get, maybe $100, $200 a week as your normal wage. Guess what? You've just scored yourself a rather significant pay increase. So unfortunately, it's just one of those circumstances. There's winners and there's losers, Brendan, and we've seen a few of those winners, but unfortunately, we've seen a fair few losers as well. So you're right. You've got to top them up to that $750 or $1,500, whichever way you're going to work it, and then get reimbursed from the government, and away you go. So,
and then from the other side of things, if you've got employees that are more than $1,500 a fortnight, what's the obligation there? Do you need to pay the gap yourself on top of the $1,500, or do they get reduced to $1,500?
Well, and this is where it becomes a very much a human relations or a HR issue. So as a general rule, if they continue to work their normal hours and there's obviously awards that need to be considered as well. But ordinarily you would, as a general rule, prima facie, pay them their normal, okay? And then obviously you get reimbursed the $1,500, so to speak, but they still get their normal wage. There are some the ability to negotiate, and that's a really important thing, that it can't just be the employer saying this is what's happening. It must be a negotiation. And we always encourage our clients, when you're doing this, you need to tick the boxes correctly. Jot your I's, cross your T's, because HR is a minefield in its own, but because there's, as I said, awards that need to be considered. So you can't just unilaterally say, sorry, Brendan, you're now only getting this much money, unless there's going to be, for example, a reduction in your hours, for how many hours I want you to work. So.
Gotcha. Actually, on the flip side of that, I have seen some discussion about, if I've got an employee that is making less than $1,500 a fortnight, can I ask them to do more work to top up to the $1,500 mark?
Yeah, again, the award will be the particular document to look at, but it's a lot of them just say it's got to be a reasonable request. So if the award says that someone can't work more than 38 hours per week, and you can't ask them to work 45 hours per week for that lower rate of pay, okay, without applying any sort of overtime penalties and those sort of things. So it's a lot of the awards refer to being reasonable, a reasonable request. And that also extends to, perhaps you might not, your primary function might be a particular role in the business, okay, but due to the current economic conditions, there may not be that type of work for you, okay. So the employer says, well, Brendan, I want to redeploy you over into this part of the business, okay. As long as that's considered reasonable, and you're given all the the relevant training or what have you, and abiding by the workplace health and safety rules, then again, an employer is entitled to make that reasonable request of you. So, yeah.
And this, now, the $1,500 a fortnight, will that be taxed?
It will be, mate. Yeah. So as an employer, you have to deduct the relevant amount of the difference. So yep, absolutely taxable come end of year. So.
Yep. And does that get, is that like a standard PAYG tax?
Yeah.
So
Just your normal tax rates, that apply. So as if you were earning that much money, 6 months ago. So
gotcha.
yeah, there's no special rates or rebates that apply. So
absolutely. So to just summarise a little bit on that bit.
yeah.
So we pay our employees in advance, or it's still in arrears, I guess, after they've worked the working week.
Depends on the day you pay them. Yeah.
I guess it is. So we pay them in advance of the rebate, let's say. So in the case of your client there, that they may have a $15,000 wages bill for the month. And then they've got to wait after that to get reimbursed for that $1,500. So 15,000. I apologise. Okay, so that's cool.
So it's a cash flow. It's a cash flow issue.
Yeah, absolutely, and could be quite a devastating one if you had a large amount of employees. I can't imagine we'll see Virgin applying for the JobKeeper program.
Perhaps not.
Too soon? Too soon?
Yeah, too soon. Too soon.
Is there much else that we need to cover on the JobKeeper?
I guess the other thing that we're talking to our clients about is the process, the importance of getting it right. We talked about the need to have to pay it back. The other thing is you've got to apply for your payments, obviously, each month. So there's an application process then as well.
Wow.
And then there's this monthly reporting of what your actual turnover was for that particular month, okay, including what employees are still eligible or not. And that has to be done by the 7th day following the end of the month. So it's time sensitive as well. So it's not just a matter of sitting back, and saying, yeah, I've done all the paperwork up front and the money's just going to flow. There is regular work that needs to be done between now and September, when 27th of September, when this program officially closes. So that's fairly onerous reporting, and that's why we put together a bit of an offer which we put out to our clients, and even on social media last night we did some work on it and got it out fairly late last night. Basically saying, hey, listen, we can take care of everything for you from the initial eligibility assessment all the way through to the month-on-month reporting, just to de-risk again for the client, okay? Because again, it's not money for Gem, it's not free money. If you get it wrong, you will have to repay it. And so we just looked at that as an opportunity to be able to provide an added level of service to our clients, because we believe we've done the hard yards to get the information and have a certain level of expertise in this area, and we want to help our clients. We want to help our clients not only survive but thrive. That's an important thing, and we know this is just a temporary thing, and we want clients to be able to get through this so that they can fulfil their dreams, and so that's part of what we've done. So yeah,
sounds like it would be a very, very worthy investment.
Yes, good word.
Yes, definitely. So the other one you mentioned was the cash flow boost, which is once again a really catchy title.
Yeah.
But it's not a situation where the government just writes a check and a check arrives in the mail, or all of a sudden some figure arrives in your bank account.
No.
It's another complex animal in itself. Can you explain that one?
It's definitely complex, but probably less onerous from the point of view of what's required. Okay. Basically, you've to be eligible for it, you've just got to be an employer. So you've got to employ people, which can include yourself, I might add, if you're in a company or a trust structure or what have you. So you just got to be an employee or have employees. And basically what will happen is when you lodge your March BAS, be it the monthly or the quarterly, whichever reporting cycle you're on, you will get a minimum of $10,000 credit on your BAS account, up to a maximum of $50,000 credit on your BAS account. Okay. The actual figure depends on how much you're withholding from your employees' taxes. So it's a minimum 10, maximum 50.
Yep.
But if I use an example of a March quarterly lodger preparer, and let's say their pay-as-you-go withholding for their employees totaled $25,000, for argument's sake, then they'll get a $25,000 credit on their BAS account. Okay, but it's a minimum 10, maximum 50, or whatever your actual pay-as-you-go withholding was for that particular quarter. For monthly reporters, what they simply do is they take your month of March and times that by 3. Okay, so if it was $10,000 for the month of March, times by 3, your credit becomes $30,000 on your BAS account. And they're going to repeat this again, Brendan, in October. Okay, so they're going to do this all again in October, with only one assumption, that you're still around as a business person. And of course, we want all of our businesses to be around then. So it's an amount now and an amount in approximately 6 months' time. So
okay, yeah, that's pretty straightforward. And is there anything that people need to do other than submit their BAS?
No, that's pretty much all they have to do. But there's a couple of, as always with this world that we live in, there's always some quirks, because let's say that your credit, your cash flow boost, actually exceeds your actual BAS bill. So you've actually got an excess amount for argument's sake. If you're lodging at the moment, if you lodge this side of 28th April, so 28th April is a really critical date for people to be mindful of when lodging your BAS, your quarterly BAS. If you lodge that now, so today, the 22nd of April, and you have an excess amount, okay, so after you apply your pay-as-you-go credit or your cash flow boost, whichever term you want to use, that credit will be, we're told by the tax service, withheld and applied against any other debts you may have. Okay, so if you have the prior BAS hasn't been quite paid yet, okay, then the tax service will say, yes, you're entitled to this credit, but we're going to apply it against your prior BAS debt or whatever debt it might be. But if you lodge after the 28th, okay, same situation, you have an excess amount and you have a prior debt, they will actually pay you to your bank account that excess amount, okay? So if you want to get that excess amount back into your cash flow, then you would be best to wait to lodge until after the 28th of April, okay? Keeping in mind, it's actually not due until towards the end of May. So you're not late, okay? It's just that the government, the tax service in the legislation, this 28th April is a critical date. Of course, if you have no outstanding debt, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
You lodge today and everything's okay. But yeah, these are some of the quirky things, and we put a bit of a video message to our clients on Facebook the other night about making sure that you're careful when you lodge if you do have an outstanding debt. Talking to some clients, they said, yeah, Ben, I understand that. I'm happy for that to go off that outstanding debt because it just makes me feel a little bit better. That's fine. But if you wanted to get it back into the cash flow of the business to help pay rates or rent or wages for that matter, or any other sort of expenses, then the lodgement date of post 28th April is pretty critical, Brendan.
Absolutely. It's certainly going to help. It's going to help.
Yes.
So
yeah.
So minimum 10,
yep.
Let's say
50.
maximum 50. Let's say your pay as you go obligation was $8,000.
Yep.
The 10, the minimum 10, that $2,000, what happens with it? Does it stay in credit or does it?
It's just a gift, mate, from our friends at Treasury.
Okay.
So even though you might have pay-as-you-go withholding of $8,000 as per your BAS,
yep.
it's an absolute minimum of 10 that you get a credit for.
Okay.
So that's what can create the excess situation that I talked about just before.
Yes.
Is that, well, actually, no, my BAS is only 8 for pay-as-you-go withholding.
Yep.
And let's say you're a small crop farmer where you don't have any GST on your suppliers and your sales.
Mm-hmm.
So you are going to get a cash flow boost back into your business. Whereas others will just have less to pay on their BAS. So, a business such as ours, where the suppliers that we make all have GST on them, we don't get anything back into our bank account, but it means that our BAS bill will be less.
Gotcha. Yep.
So, and I'll be honest with you, I'm a massive fan of this. When it first came out, I thought to myself, that is really helpful for people in business to know that, maximum 50 and times 2. And also, here's an interesting thing, per business. So if you're set up in a structure that might have multiple companies, for argument's sake, and you meet all the other criteria, then you can stand to get a minimum 10, maximum 50 per business now and in 6 months. So in the case of 2 businesses, that's a amount of almost, that's $200,000. So thank you very much. So I'm a big fan of that. In fact, I'm more of a fan of that incentive, that stimulus measure, than I am of the JobKeeper. The JobKeeper is primarily geared towards keeping people employed. That's wonderful, and we want to do that. Cash flow boost is more about looking after the business itself, in my opinion. And so I like the cash flow boost more than the JobKeeper. You know what? They're both great, and they're both going to go a long way to helping us bounce back. When we're allowed to.
Absolutely. If there was somebody that Jason Virtue made the example of somebody that's just they're a worker. They go to work for themselves. They go to work and they're going okay. They haven't got their tax affairs up to date. They just maybe come and see you once a year, maybe, and they haven't got they haven't got everything as tidy as it could be. Would you suggest that they get to see you, or they get to see their accountant as soon as possible and get stuff tidied up?
Absolutely, because under both, and again, this is the point that we accountants are all over, because it's our job to be all over this. But both the cash flow boost and the JobKeeper payment are tied to certain lodgements being up to date. And this is something that a lot of people would not be aware of, Brendan. And certainly, you don't see that in the mainstream media. But, a lot of the Facebook chats that I'm part of, well aware of this. And I just saw something come through on one of those just earlier before, where an accountant had contacted the tax service and said, hey, listen, you pulled this 12th of March date on us, which is when things were announced. And it basically said, again, there goes my...
You're energy efficient.
Correct, yes. That if certain lodgements weren't done by the 12th of March, then again, prima facie, you wouldn't be eligible. Okay. And again, it was an integrity measure. They didn't want people coming up with these contrived ideas to try and maximise or get access to something they're not entitled to. The tax service, again, have made some good soundings, the point of view is that, listen, we understand and we will be lenient when it comes to that, okay? But leniency only goes so far. So absolutely, if your lodgements are not up to date, okay, you need to get those done ASAP. Otherwise, you jeopardise getting access to both the cash flow boost and the JobKeeper payment. Even if you tick all the other boxes, Brendan, even if you tick all the other eligibility boxes, these integrity measures have been brought into both legislation. So,
Absolutely. So imperative. And we quickly touched upon the fact that people can come to you for help with JobKeeper, or I'm sure advice with cash flow or any other accounting thing. How do people find you and your people, Ben?
Listen, people can send me an email direct. So my email address is ben.e@kingdom.financial. So no .com, no .au, just ben.e@kingdom.financial. Or they can ring the office 5370 and I'll make sure that I give you a call back or respond to your email, and we can definitely help you out, whatever it may be.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I watch your videos. Keep them coming on
Sorry
Facebook.
To hear that, Brendan.
They're good. They're good. You've definitely got a face for video,
Should put a
not for
public
radio.
service announcement probably should put a public service announcement. Don't be eating or operating heavy machinery while you're watching.
At least you're not like me with a head for radio. There should be a podcast. But thank you so much.
What we're finding is, just to pick up on your point, we're finding that there's so much information out there to read, and it's very easy to direct people to websites and put information up there. But I think people can consume and therefore apply stuff that they listen to and see, whatever. Probably a little bit easier than reading it, and so we're getting a lot of good feedback about it, and so we'll obviously continue to do that. I think one of the things when you go through these situations, and again, I was talking to someone the other day about the lessons that were learned from the global financial crisis, just over 10 years ago. The businesses that survived during that time really started to self-reflect on efficiencies, processes, procedures, etc., and they survived, which is a good thing. But the really smart business people, they actually didn't then stop those things that they changed. They actually kept those things going, and so their businesses not only survived, but they actually flourished post GFC. And so we've got another example opportunity to go, you know what, let's really look at our businesses and go, okay, I'm going to need to become more efficient, more whatever it might be. But you know what, once this economic downturn is gone, I'm not going to stop that. I'm going to continue to do that. And I'm going to continue to self-reflect on our business. And the video, I mean, it sounds like a really simple thing, but I've committed that we're going to keep doing these well past, and about different things on both sides of our business, whether it's the planning side with some investment stuff, or on the accounting side as well. So hopefully as business people, we're always trying to learn, and always going, you know what, I don't know everything. I need to improve, and committing ourselves to improvement. So
absolutely, totally agree. And there is the opportunity to come out of this as a different business, and there's a pretty fair chance that the world's not going to be the same place as it was before. That we come back to. People may have gotten used to working at home and like it. Businesses might realise that they don't need a massive office in the middle of Sydney. They can disperse their workers out at their homes and save some money. This could be a complete paradigm shift for the business world. So,
and you know what? I love hearing some of the pivot stories. How people have gone, okay, the way I do business has stopped because the government has said I can't do it. Okay, but you know what? I'm going to do things this way. Okay, and I love those pivot stories, and you can read about them. But you know what? There's plenty of pivot stories in and around Gympie. Of people going, okay, for example, cafes going, well, I can't do, and I'll give a shout out to my favourite cafe, which is not far from our office, Farmer and Son. The ladies always look after us, and I love their coffee. But they've pivoted to a situation of, well, let's provide some prepared meals, that people can take home. But you know what? There's we could probably have a whole session
Oh,
on pivot stories in and around Gympie, and it's amazing, and it's also great to see businesses starting up. I think of the new cafe, Dean and Candy Waldock down at Eat It Candies down the main street. Good on her, good on them for backing their ability to go, yep, things aren't ideal, but we're gonna have a go, and we're gonna do things different than what we would probably ordinarily would do. So I love pivot stories, Brendan. I could
too.
listen to them for hours.
Aren't they great? And hey, I tell you what, if Dean and Candy can get it to work now, they're going to be flying when it comes back to normal. And there is the chance that that's not as far away as we think.
I agree.
So
I think if you listen to our Prime Minister, where he's no longer talking months, he's talking weeks.
Yes.
And I picked up on that a couple of weeks ago, and when nobody else seemed to hear that, I thought to myself, I was listening to a press conference one day and said, did he just say weeks? But I think everybody's been doing the right thing, or most people have been doing the right thing, and we're flattening the curve, whatever that means. But anyway, I'm not a doctor. I'm just
just an accountant.
Whatever I am.
Jeez.
Whatever I am. So that's a really good thing. So
absolutely. And we really must. I think our government's done a fantastic job.
I agree.
There'll be people that shout at me and point at me for that, but I think they've done an absolutely fantastic job. They've kept the vehicle rolling as best as they can. We didn't have a complete lockdown, and about 6 weeks ago, we had our first meeting as a chamber with the GRC, and it genuinely looked, in that first week, it genuinely looked like we were about to go into a complete lockdown, and it was looking really, really bad. None of us knew what we could do. We sort of sat in a socially distant circle and looked at each other and said, we don't know. We've just got no idea. And it sort of feels like it went to a point, and then it leveled out. And I think it's fantastic. I think they've done a great job.
And while we're giving praise where it's due, can I just add my praise to yourselves, as the chamber, and Tony and the team. I've got a bit of an idea of how tough it is to be involved in the chamber and what it takes, but that was a long time ago, and you guys are taking it to the next level. So and hopefully you all feel congratulated, and you should be encouraged for what you're doing. So
thank you, Ben. I really most appreciate that. Excellent. Thank you. I won't take up any more of your time. You're a busy man.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking the time to go through that. That was really great detail.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ben.
Good stuff. Thanks so much.
Talk to you soon.